He bought a mystery box from an alien store and found a gorgeous alien girl inside. The bar was a dingy little hole in the wall, the kind of place where the air was thick with the mingled scents, stale beer, cheap perfume, and the faint, ever-present odor of desperation. Flynn loved it. He sat at the bar, his muscular frame hunched over a whiskey, the ice clinking in the glass as he listened to his buddy Korax ramble on about some new craze. "Dude, you gotta check out these mystery boxes," Korax said. His humanoid features lit up with excitement. His green skin seemed to glow under the dim bar lights as he leaned in closer, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. "It's like Russian roulette, but with stuff. Could be anything in there, some weird alien tech, a rare critter, maybe even something that'll make you rich." Flynn snorted, taking a swig of his drink. The burn of the alcohol was a familiar comfort, a reminder of countless nights spent just like this one. "Right, because I've got nothing better to do with my credits than blow them on some overpriced junk." But even as the words left his mouth, Flynn couldn't deny the flicker of interest that sparked in his gut. Life had been pretty damn dull since he'd left the Marines, and the thought of a little mystery, a little excitement, well, it held a certain appeal. Korax must have seen the glint in his eye because he grinned, his sharp teeth glinting in the low light. "Trust me, man, it's worth a shot. What have you got to lose?" Flynn shook his head, a wry smile tugging at his lips. Fine. I'll think about it. But if I end up with a box full of alien dung, I'm coming for you." Korax just laughed, clapping Flynn on the shoulder as he signaled the bartender for another round. Later that night, as he stumbled home to his empty apartment, Flynn found himself thinking about the mystery box more and more. What could be inside? A rare weapon from some far-off world? A priceless gem? Maybe even some kind of high-tech gadget that would make his life easier? The possibilities were endless, and Flynn's imagination ran wild. He found himself pulling up the site Korax had mentioned and scrolled through the listings, his eyes widening at the sheer variety of boxes on offer. Some promised ancient artifacts, others hinted at exotic alien creatures. The prices were all over the place. But what the hell, right? You only live once. Before he could think better of it, Flynn clicked buy on a mid-range box. The estimated delivery time was a few days out, plenty of time for him to forget all about his drunk impulse purchase. But when Flynn got home from running errands a few days later, there it was, a massive, gleaming box sitting right there on his doorstep. He hefted it inside, surprised at how light it was for its size. The box was made of a strange, shimmery material that seemed to shift and change color as he moved it, catching the light in mesmerizing patterns. Flynn's heart pounded with anticipation as he tore into the box, his hands shaking slightly as he ripped away the outer layer. Inside was another box, this one a deep, rich blue that seemed to pulse with an inner light. Flynn's breath caught in his throat as he lifted the lid, his eyes widening at what he saw inside. Nestled inside the box was the most stunning creature Flynn had ever laid eyes on. Her skin was a mesmerizing silvery blue, her features delicate and fine. She stirred as he watched, her movements graceful and fluid, and when her eyes fluttered open, Flynn found himself drowning in pools of molten gold. "Greetings, master," she said, her voice a melodic purr that sent shivers down Flynn's spine. "I am Mitra, an Aurelian geisha. I am here to fulfill your every desire." Flynn's mind went blank. He'd heard of Aurelian geishas, of course. Who hadn't? Legendary companions, highly trained in the arts of pleasure and devotion. But to have one here, in his home, addressing him as master, it was too much to process. I think there's been a mistake," he managed to stammer out, his voice sounding strangled to his own ears. "I ordered a mystery box, not a companion?" Mitra finished for him, her lips curving into a seductive smile. She rose from the box with a fluid grace that made Flynn's heart skip a beat, her silvery skin shimmering in the light. "Oh, but there is no mistake, master. I was placed in this box specifically for you. It is my sole purpose to bring you pleasure and satisfaction." Flynn swallowed hard, his heart racing as he tried to wrap his mind around the situation. A part of him knew he should put a stop to this, to send her back, but another part, a deeper, more primal part, was already imagining all the ways he could explore this unexpected gift. You can't just... I can't keep you here, Flynn said, his voice sounding weak even to his own ears. It's not right. You're a person, not a thing to be owned. Mitra tilted her head, her golden eyes studying him with a curious intensity. But Master, this is what I was made for. It is an honor to serve you, to bring you pleasure in any way you desire. I have no other purpose, no other wish than to be yours. Flynn's mind reeled, torn between the undeniable desire he felt for the stunning creature before him and the nagging sense of wrongness that tugged at his conscience. He'd never been the kind of man to take advantage, to use another for his own pleasure. But Mitra was offering herself to him freely, insisting that it was her very reason for being. You can stay here for now, he found himself saying, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. Until we figure this out. But I'm not your master, and you're not my anything. We're just two people, okay? Two people who are going to take this slow and figure out what the hell is going on. Mitra's smile widened, her golden eyes glinting with promise. As you wish, Mas Flynn. I am yours to command, in whatever way you see fit. As she stepped out of the box, her silvery skin shimmering in the light, Flynn knew his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. The mystery box had brought him more than just a beautiful companion. It had brought him a thrilling new adventure, one he couldn't wait to embark upon. But even as excitement thrummed through his veins, Flynn couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Mitra than met the eye. Who had sent her, and why? What secrets lay hidden beneath her perfect silvery skin? As he looked into her golden eyes, Flynn knew one thing for certain. He would stop at nothing to unravel the mystery of the Aurelian geisha who had landed on his doorstep. Flynn sat on his couch, his head in his hands as he tried to process the events of the past few hours. Mitra, the stunning Aurelian geisha who had emerged from his mystery box, sat beside him, her golden eyes watching him with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Flynn, are you all right?" she asked, her melodic voice soft and soothing. "I sense that you are troubled by my presence." Flynn looked up, meeting her gaze with a wry smile. "It's not every day a guy finds a beautiful alien woman in a box on his doorstep," he said, shaking his head. "I'm just trying to wrap my head around it all." Mitra nodded, her silvery skin shimmering in the soft light of the living room. "I understand. This must be a great shock to you. But please, know that I am here to serve you, to bring you pleasure and comfort in whatever way you desire." Flynn felt a flush of heat rise to his cheeks at her words, his mind involuntarily conjuring images of just what those ways might entail. He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. "Oh, look, Mitra, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not really comfortable with the idea of owning another person. It's just not right." Mitra tilted her head, her golden eyes searching his face. "But Flynn, it is not ownership. It is a sacred bond, a connection between a geisha and her chosen companion. I am not a slave, but a willing servant, dedicated to bringing joy and fulfillment to your life." Flynn sighed, running a hand through his short dark hair. "I get that, I do, but it's still a lot to take in. I don't even know the first thing about Aurelian culture, or what it means to be a geisha." Mitra smiled, her full lips curving into a seductive arc. "Then let me teach you," she purred, her voice low and inviting. "Let me show you the ways of my people, the art of pleasure and devotion." Flynn swallowed hard, his heart pounding in his chest as he met her molten gaze. There was a heat there, a promise of sensual delights that made his blood run hot. But there was also a tenderness, a genuine desire to please and serve that tugged at something deep within him. I don't know," he managed to say, his voice rough with emotion. "This is all happening so fast. I think I need some time to process it all." Mitra nodded, her expression understanding. "Of course, Flynn. Take all the time you need. I will be here, ready to serve you in whatever way you desire, whenever you're ready." With that, she rose from the couch, her movements fluid and graceful as she made her way towards the guest room Flynn had offered her. He watched her go, his eyes drawn to the sway of her hips, the way her silvery skin seemed to glow in the dim light. As the door closed behind her, Flynn let out a long, shuddering breath. He knew he should be calling the company that had sent the mystery box, demanding a refund or an explanation. But a part of him, a deep primal part, was already imagining all the ways he could explore this unexpected gift. Shaking his head, Flynn reached for his phone, scrolling through his contacts until he found the one he was looking for. Korax. His buddy had gotten him into this mess, and now he was going to help him figure out what the hell to do about it. The phone rang once, twice, before Korax's familiar voice came on the line. "Flynn, my man! How's the mystery box treating you?" Flynn let out a bark of laughter, the sound tinged with disbelief. "You're not going to believe this, but there was a woman inside. A fucking Aurelian geisha, if you can believe it." There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end of the line, followed by a low whistle. "Damn, dude, that's like hitting the jackpot. Those geishas are legendary, man. They're trained in all sorts of arts, or if you know what I mean." Flynn felt his face heat up at the implication in Korax's voice. "Yeah, well, I'm not really sure what to do with her. I mean, she's gorgeous, don't get me wrong, but the whole devoted servant thing is kind of freaking me out." Korax chuckled, the sound warm and good-natured. "Flynn, my friend, you need to relax. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Embrace it. Learn about her culture. Let her show you the ways of her people. Who knows, you might just find yourself enjoying it more than you ever imagined." Flynn sighed, running a hand over his face. "I don't know, man. Just feels wrong somehow. Like I'm taking advantage of her. Trust me, Flynn, if she's a true Aurelian geisha, then serving you is her greatest joy and honor. It's not about taking advantage. It's about accepting the gift she's offering you. Just take it slow, get to know her, and see where things lead. You never know, this could be the best thing that's ever happened to you." Flynn was quiet for a long moment, considering his friend's words. Maybe Korax was right. Maybe this was an opportunity, a chance to experience something new and exciting. And if Mitra was truly happy to serve him, who was he to deny her that? "All right, fine," he said at last, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I'll give it a shot. But if things start getting too weird, I'm sending her back. Mystery box be damned." Korax laughed, the sound rich and warm. "That's the spirit, Flynn. Embrace the unknown, my friend. You won't regret it." As Flynn hung up the phone, he felt a new sense of determination settle over him. He would give this thing with Mitra a chance, would learn about her culture and her ways, and who knows, maybe, just maybe, he would find something he never even knew he was looking for. With a deep breath, Flynn stood up from the couch, making his way towards the guest room where Mitra was staying. He knocked softly on the door, his heart pounding in his chest as he waited for her to answer. When the door swung open, Mitra stood before him, her golden eyes wide and curious. "Flynn," she said, her voice soft and inviting, "how can I serve you?" Flynn swallowed hard, his mouth suddenly dry as he met her gaze. "I was hoping we could talk," he said, his voice rough with nerves. "About your culture, your ways. I want to learn more about you, Mitra, about what it means to be a geisha." Mitra's face lit up with a radiant smile, her eyes sparkling with joy. "Of course, Flynn. It would be my pleasure to teach you. Please, come in." As Flynn stepped into the room, he felt a thrill of excitement run through him. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was for certain. With Mitra by his side, he was in for the ride of his life. As Flynn stepped into Mitra's room, he was immediately struck by the subtle changes she had made to the space. The air was filled with a soft, sweet scent, like a mix of exotic spices and fresh flowers. Soft, shimmering fabrics draped the walls, creating a cozy, intimate atmosphere that seemed to wrap around him like a warm embrace. Mitra sat on the edge of the bed, her silvery skin glowing in the dim light. She wore a loose, flowing robe that seemed to shimmer and shift with every movement, hinting at the curves beneath. Her golden eyes watched him with a mix of curiosity and invitation, a small smile playing at the corners of her full lips. "Please sit with me," she said, patting the space beside her on the bed. "I would like to share with you the ways of my people to help you understand what it means to be a geisha." Flynn swallowed hard, his heart pounding in his chest as he crossed the room to sit beside her. The bed was soft and inviting, and he could feel the warmth of Mitra's body radiating out to him, making his skin tingle with awareness. "In Aurelian culture," Mitra began, her voice soft and melodic, "the role of the geisha is one of great honor and respect. We are trained from a young age in the arts of pleasure and devotion, learning to anticipate and fulfill the needs of our chosen companions. Flynn nodded, trying to focus on her words and not the way her robe had fallen open slightly, revealing a tantalizing glimpse of silvery skin. "And what does that entail exactly?" he asked, his voice rough with a mix of nerves and anticipation. Mitra smiled, her golden eyes sparkling with mischief. "It is not just about physical pleasure, though that is certainly a part of it," she said, her hand coming to rest lightly on Flynn's thigh. "It is about creating a deep, intimate connection, one that goes beyond the mere physical. A geisha is a confidant, a source of comfort and support, a partner in all things." Flynn felt a shiver run through him at her touch, his body responding instinctively to her nearness. "And you want that with me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mitra leaned in closer, her breath warm against his ear. "Yes, Flynn," she murmured, her hand sliding higher up his thigh. "I want to be that for you, to bring you pleasure and joy in all the ways you desire. Will you let me?" Flynn's breath caught in his throat, his body thrumming with a sudden, intense desire. He knew he should resist, should take things slow and be cautious. But with Mitra so close, her scent filling his nostrils and her touch setting his skin on fire, he found himself nodding almost involuntarily. "Yes," he breathed, his hand coming up to cup her cheek. "Show me, Mitra. Teach me the ways of your people." Mitra's smile widened, her eyes glowing with pleasure and anticipation. She leaned forward, her lips brushing softly against Flynn's, in a kiss that was both tender and full of promise. Flynn felt himself melting into her touch, his body responding eagerly to the feel of her soft, warm lips against his. As the kiss deepened, Flynn felt himself getting lost in the sensations, in the feel of Mitra's body pressing against his, and the soft, breathedy sounds of her pleasure. His hands roamed over her curves, exploring the smooth, silky texture of her skin and the firm, supple muscles beneath. They fell back onto the bed, their bodies tangling together in a dance of passion and desire. Flynn let himself get swept away in the moment, in the feel of Mitra's touch and the taste of her lips. He knew there would be consequences, knew that this was a line he couldn't uncross. But in that moment, with Mitra warm and willing in his arms, he found he didn't care. The next morning, Flynn woke to the sound of his phone buzzing insistently on the nightstand. He groaned, rolling over to grab it and squinting at the screen. It was a message from his boss, reminding him of the early meeting he had scheduled for that day. Flynn sat up, rubbing a hand over his face as the events of the previous night came flooding back to him. He glanced over at the empty space beside him, a small frown tugging at his lips. Where was Mitra? As if on cue, the door to the bedroom opened and Mitra stepped inside, carrying a tray laden with steaming cups of coffee and a plate of what looked like some kind of alien pastries. She wore a simple, form-fitting dress that hugged her curves in all the right places, and her silvery hair was pulled back in a loose, casual style. "Good morning, Flynn," she said, her voice warm and affectionate. "I thought you might like some breakfast before you head off to work." Flynn blinked, surprised by the thoughtful gesture. "Wow, thank you," he said, sitting up and accepting the tray from her. "You didn't have to do that." Mitra smiled, settling herself on the edge of the bed beside him. "It is my pleasure to serve you, Flynn," she said, her golden eyes shining with sincerity. "In all ways, big and small." Flynn felt a warmth spreading through his chest at her words, a feeling of contentment and happiness that he hadn't experienced in a long time. He reached out, taking her hand in his and giving it a gentle squeeze. "I appreciate that, Mitra," he said, his voice soft and sincere. "More than you know." Mitra leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to his cheek. "I am glad," she murmured, her breath warm against his skin. "Now, eat up. You have a busy day ahead of you." Flynn grinned, taking a bite of one of the alien pastries and letting out a small moan of pleasure at the burst of sweet, exotic flavors on his tongue. "Damn, these are good," he said, taking another bite. "You're spoiling me. You know that." Mitra laughed, the sound like music to Flynn's ears. "That is the idea, my love," she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Now finish your breakfast. I will be here when you return, ready to spoil you some more." Flynn felt a thrill of anticipation run through him at her words, his mind already racing with thoughts of what the evening might bring. As he finished his breakfast and got ready for work, he couldn't keep the smile from his face, a sense of excitement and joy bubbling up inside him. He knew there would be challenges ahead, knew that his relationship with Metra was unconventional and bound to raise some eyebrows. But in that moment, with the taste of her lips still on his and the promise of more to come, he found he didn't care. He was ready to embrace this new chapter in his life, to see where this unexpected journey with Metra might lead. As he stepped out the door and into the bright, bustling streets of the city, Flynn felt a new sense of purpose and determination filling him. He was ready to face whatever the future might bring, with Metra by his side and a heart full of hope and love. Flynn sat at his desk, staring at the blank screen of his computer with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The cursor blinked at him, as if daring him to put his thoughts into words, to give form to the incredible story that had been unfolding in his life over the past few weeks. Ever since Metra had come into his world, Flynn had felt a spark of creativity ignite within him. Her presence, her unique perspective on life and love, had inspired him in ways he had never experienced before. And now, with her encouragement and support, he had decided to take the plunge and write a novel based on their story. It was a daunting task, to be sure. Flynn had never considered himself a writer, had never even entertained the idea of putting pen to paper, or fingers to keyboard, as it were. But with Metra by his side, he felt like anything was possible. As if on cue, the door to his study opened, and Metra stepped inside, carrying a tray laden with steaming cups of tea and a plate of those delicious alien pastries he had come to love so much. She wore a simple, flowing dress that seemed to shimmer and shift with every movement, and her silvery hair was pulled back in a loose, casual style that made Flynn's heart skip a beat. "How's the writing going, my love?" she asked, setting the tray down on the desk beside him and perching herself on the edge of the chair. Flynn sighed, running a hand through his short, dark hair. "Honestly, I'm not even sure where to start," he admitted, his voice tinged with frustration. "I mean, how do I even begin to capture everything that's happened between us? The mystery, the excitement, the love." Metra smiled, her golden eyes shining with understanding and affection. "Start at the beginning," she said, her voice soft and encouraging. "Tell our story as you experienced it, from the moment you opened that mystery box and found me inside. The rest will come naturally, as long as you write from your heart." Flynn felt a warmth spreading through his chest at her words, a sense of calm and clarity washing over him. She was right, of course. Their story was one of love and discovery, of two souls finding each other across the vast expanse of space and time. All he had to do was let that love guide his words, and the rest would fall into place. "You always know just what to say," he murmured, leaning in to press a soft kiss to her lips. "What would I do without you?" Metra laughed, the sound like music to Flynn's ears. "You would probably still be staring at that blank screen, wondering where to start," she teased, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "But lucky for you, you have me to keep you on track." Flynn grinned, feeling a renewed sense of purpose and determination filling him. With Metra by his side, he knew he could do anything, even write a best-selling novel about their incredible journey together. Over the next few weeks, Flynn threw himself into his writing with a passion and dedication he had never known before. Every spare moment he had, he was at his desk, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he poured his heart and soul onto the page. Metra was there every step of the way, offering her unique insights and perspectives on their story. She helped him to capture the essence of her Aurelian culture, the beauty and sensuality of the geisha tradition, and the deep, unbreakable bond that had formed between them. Together they crafted a tale of love and humor, of cultural misunderstandings and unexpected connections. They wrote of the challenges they had faced, both from the outside world and from within their own hearts, and of the strength and resilience that had seen them through. As the pages began to pile up, Flynn felt a sense of excitement and pride growing within him. He knew, deep in his bones, that they were creating something special, something that would resonate with readers across the galaxy. And he was right. When the book was finally finished, Flynn sent it out to every publisher he could think of, his heart pounding with nervous anticipation as he waited for a response. He knew it was a long shot, that the odds of a first-time author getting picked up were slim to none. But then a miracle happened. A small independent publisher, known for taking chances on unconventional and thought-provoking stories, responded with an offer to publish Flynn's book. They were intrigued by the unique premise, the tale of an alien geisha and the human who had fallen in love with her, and they wanted to share it with the world. Flynn was over the moon, his joy and excitement spilling over into every aspect of his life. He couldn't wait to share his story with the world, to let them see the incredible journey he and Mitra had been on together. And Mitra, for her part, was just as thrilled. She knew that their story had the power to change hearts and minds, to bridge the gap between cultures and species in a way that nothing else could. As the release date for the book drew near, Flynn and Mitra found themselves swept up in a whirlwind of excitement and anticipation. They did interviews with local media outlets, attended book signings and meet and greets with fans, and basked in the glow of their newfound success. But through it all, they never lost sight of what truly mattered: their love for each other and the incredible bond that had brought them together in the first place. One evening, as they lay in bed together, their bodies intertwined and their hearts beating as one, Flynn turned to Mitra with a soft, tender smile on his face. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion, "for everything, for being my muse, my partner, my love. I couldn't have done any of this without you." Mitra smiled, her golden eyes shining with love and devotion. "You give me too much credit, my love," she murmured, her hand tracing gentle patterns on his chest. "Your talent, your passion, your heart, that's all you. I'm just lucky to be along for the ride." Flynn shook his head, pulling her closer and burying his face in her silvery hair. "No, Mitra," he said, his voice fierce with conviction. "You're not just along for the ride. You're the reason for it, the reason for everything." And as they held each other close, their hearts full of love and gratitude, Flynn knew that he had found something truly special in Mitra. Not just a lover, not just a muse, but a partner in every sense of the word. Together they had created something beautiful, something that would touch the lives of countless others across the galaxy. And as they looked to the future, to the next chapter in their incredible story, Flynn knew that there was nowhere else he would rather be than by Mitra's side, now and forever. Flynn and Mitra stood behind the curtain, their hearts pounding with a mixture of excitement and nerves. They could hear the murmur of the crowd beyond, the rustling of pages, and the occasional burst of laughter as the attendees of the book signing event waited for their chance to meet the authors of the surprise bestseller, The Mystery Box. Flynn glanced over at Mitra, his eyes drinking in the sight of her. She was stunning as always, her silvery skin glowing under the soft lights, and her golden eyes sparkling with anticipation. She wore a simple, elegant dress that hugged her curves in all the right places, and her hair was pulled back in a sleek, sophisticated style that made Flynn's heart skip a beat. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, his voice low and intimate as he reached out to take her hand in his. Mitra smiled, her fingers intertwining with his in a gesture of love and support. "With you by my side, my love, I'm ready for anything," she murmured, leaning in to press a soft kiss to his cheek. Just then the curtain began to rise and the crowd erupted into applause as Flynn and Mitra stepped out onto the stage. They waved and smiled, their hearts swelling with gratitude and joy as they took in the sea of faces before them. As they settled into their seats behind the signing table, Flynn couldn't help but marvel at how far they had come. Just a few short months ago, he had been a bored, lonely ex-Marine, wondering what the future held for him. And then, with one impulsive decision to buy a mystery box, his life had changed forever. Now here he was, a published author with a beautiful, loving partner by his side, sharing their story with the world. It was more than he had ever dreamed possible, and he knew he had Mitra to thank for it all. As the first fan approached the table, clutching a copy of their book to her chest, Flynn felt a surge of emotion wash over him. This was what it was all about, he realized. Connecting with others, sharing their love and their story, and maybe, just maybe, making a difference in someone's life. And then, a familiar voice cut through the crowd, and Flynn looked up to see Korax pushing his way to the front of the line, a huge grin on his face, and a t-shirt with the book's cover art stretched across his broad chest. "Well, well, well, if it isn't the lovebirds themselves," Korax exclaimed, slamming his copy of the book down on the table and leaning in to give Flynn a hearty slap on the back. "I always knew you had it in you, buddy. I mean, I may have had a hand in setting you two up, but the rest? That's all you, man. You're a regular Romeo, you know that?" Flynn laughed, shaking his head at his friend's antics. Yeah, I owe you one, Korax," he said, grinning as he signed the book with a flourish. "But let's be real, it was all Mitra. She's the real star here." Mitra blushed, ducking her head as Korax turned his attention to her. "And you, my dear, are a vision," he said, his voice softening with genuine affection. "I always knew Flynn needed someone special in his life, and I couldn't have picked a better match myself. You two are the real deal, you know that." As Korax moved on, still grinning from ear to ear, Flynn and Mitra shared a look of pure love and gratitude. They knew that they were lucky, not just to have found each other, but to have friends like Korax who supported and believed in them every step of the way. The rest of the book signing passed in a blur of smiles, laughter, and heartfelt conversations. Flynn and Mitra signed countless copies of their book, posed for photos with fans, and listened to story after story of how their words had touched and inspired others. It was a humbling experience, one that left them both feeling grateful and amazed at the impact they had made. And as the last fan left the building, clutching their signed copy of The Mystery Box to their chest, Flynn and Mitra knew that this was just the beginning of their incredible journey together. But little did they know, their story was about to take an even more exciting turn. A few days later, as they were enjoying a quiet moment together in their apartment, Flynn's phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unknown number. He frowned, glancing over at Mitra with a raised eyebrow, before answering. "Hello? Is this Flynn, the author of The Mystery Box?" A smooth professional voice asked. "Yes, this is he," Flynn replied, his curiosity piqued. "Excellent. My name is Liam Novak, and I'm a producer with Starlight Studios. I'm calling because we've been following the success of your book, and we think it has the potential to make an incredible film. We'd like to set up a meeting to discuss the possibility of acquiring the rights and adapting your story for the big screen. Would you and your co-author be interested in discussing this further?" Flynn's eyes widened, and he felt his heart begin to race with excitement. A movie? About their story? It was almost too good to be true. He glanced over at Mitra, who was watching him with a curious expression, and he knew in that moment that he couldn't make this decision without her. They were a team in every sense of the word, and whatever happened next, they would face it together. "Mr. Novak, thank you for reaching out," Flynn said, his voice steady and professional, even as his mind reeled with the possibilities. "My co-author and I would be very interested in discussing this further. When would you like to set up a meeting?" As Flynn jotted down the details and ended the call, he turned to Mitra with a grin that stretched from ear to ear. "You're never going to believe this," he said, his voice trembling with excitement. "But we just got an offer to turn our book into a movie." Mitra's eyes widened, and she let out a squeal of joy as she launched herself into Flynn's arms. "A movie? Oh, my love, that's incredible," she exclaimed, peppering his face with kisses. "I can't believe it. Our story on the big screen. It's like a dream come true." Flynn held her close, his heart swelling with love and pride. "It is," he murmured, burying his face in her silvery hair. "But it's a dream we'll have to be careful with. We have to make sure they stay true to our story, to the heart and soul of what we've created together." Mitra nodded, her expression growing serious. "You're right," she said, pulling back to look him in the eye. "This is our story, our love. We have to protect it, no matter what." And as they held each other close, their minds racing with the possibilities and challenges that lay ahead, Flynn and Mitra knew that they were ready for whatever the future held. Together, they had already achieved the impossible, and with their love to guide them, there was nothing they couldn't face. The set was a buzz of activity, with crew members rushing to and fro, adjusting lights, moving cameras, and shouting instructions to one another. In the midst of it all, Flynn and Mitra sat in their designated chairs, watching with a mix of awe and disbelief as their story came to life before their very eyes. They had been on set for weeks now, consulting with the director and the screenwriters to ensure that every detail of their story was captured just right. It had been a surreal experience, seeing their words and their memories translated into a visual medium, but also a deeply rewarding one. And now, as they watched the lead actors, Jason and Mara, take their places for the final scene, Flynn and Mitra couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment wash over them. They had done it. They had taken their love, their incredible journey, and shared it with the world. As the director called action and the cameras started rolling, Flynn reached out and took Mitra's hand in his, giving it a gentle squeeze. They watched as Jace, playing the role of Flynn, took Amara, playing Mitra, into his arms and gazed down at her with a look of pure love and devotion. I never knew what I was missing until I found you, Jace said, his voice low and emotional. You've changed my life in ways I never could have imagined, and I know now that I never want to be without you again. Amara smiled up at him, her golden eyes shimmering with tears. I feel the same way, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. You've shown me what it means to be truly loved, to be accepted for who I am, and I promise, from this day forward, to love you with every beat of my heart, every breath in my body. As they leaned in for a kiss, the camera panning out to reveal the stunning alien landscape that had been created on the soundstage, Flynn felt a lump form in his throat. It was their story, their love, played out on the screen for all the world to see. And yet, as he glanced over at Mitra and saw the tears streaming down her face, he knew that it was so much more than that, because in the process of bringing their story to life, something incredible had happened. Jace and Amara, the actors who had been tasked with portraying their love on screen, had fallen for each other in real life. It had started slowly, with lingering glances and stolen moments between takes, but as the weeks had gone on, it had blossomed into something deep and true. Flynn and Mitra had watched it happen, had seen the way Jace's eyes lit up whenever Amara walked into the room, had noticed the way Amara's cheeks flushed whenever Jace paid her a compliment, and as they had gotten to know the two actors better, had seen the genuine affection and respect they had for each other, they had known that this was no mere on-set romance. This was the real thing, a love story playing out before their very eyes, just like their own had all those months ago. As the director called "cut" and the crew erupted into applause, Flynn and Mitra rose from their chairs and made their way over to Jace and Amara, who were still lost in each other's eyes. That was beautiful, you two, Mitra said, her voice soft and sincere as she reached out to hug Amara. You've captured the essence of our story so perfectly, and we couldn't be more grateful. Amara smiled, returning the hug with a fierce squeeze. It's all because of you, she said, pulling back to look Mitra in the eye. Your love, your story, it's inspired us in ways we never could have imagined. And now, thanks to you, we found our own love story. Oh, Jace nodded, his arm wrapped around Amara's waist as he grinned at Flynn. It's true, man, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Playing you, living your story, it's changed my life. And I know it's going to change the lives of everyone who sees this film. Flynn felt a swell of emotion rise up in his chest, and he reached out to clap Jace on the shoulder. I'm just glad our story could bring you two together, he said, his voice thick with feeling. Because if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that love is the most powerful force in the universe. And when you find it, you hold on to it with everything you've got. As the four of them stood there, basking in the glow of their shared experience, Flynn knew that he had never been more grateful for that fateful day when he had decided to buy a mystery box from an alien store. Because in doing so, he had found not just a gorgeous humanoid alien girl, but a love that had the power to change the world. The premiere of the mystery box was a star-studded affair, with celebrities and dignitaries from across the galaxy descending on the red carpet to catch a glimpse of the film that had captured the hearts and imaginations of millions. Flynn and Mitra, dressed to the nines in stunning designer outfits, walked the red carpet hand in hand, stopping to pose for photos and answer questions from the eager reporters who lined the way. Flynn, Mitra, how does it feel to see your story brought to life on the big screen? One reporter asked, thrusting a microphone in their direction. Flynn grinned, pulling Mitra close to his side. It's a dream come true, he said, his voice filled with emotion. When we first started this journey, we never could have imagined that it would lead us here. But seeing our love story play out on the screen, knowing that it has the power to inspire and unite people across the galaxy, it's the greatest gift we could have ever received. Mitra nodded, her eyes shining with tears of joy. We just hope that our story can serve as a reminder to everyone out there that love knows no boundaries, she said, her voice strong and clear. That no matter who you are or where you come from, you deserve to be loved for exactly who you are. As they made their way into the theater, Flynn and Mitra were greeted by a standing ovation from the packed house. And they took their seats, their hearts full to bursting as they watched their story unfold on the screen, every moment captured in stunning detail. And when the final credits rolled and the lights came up, the audience erupted into thunderous applause, rising to their feet in a standing ovation that seemed to go on forever. In the days and weeks that followed, the mystery box became a global phenomenon. shattering box office records and earning critical acclaim from reviewers across the galaxy. It was hailed as a triumph of storytelling, a love story for the ages that had the power to unite people across all boundaries of race, species, and culture. For Flynn and Mitra, it was the ultimate validation of their love, the proof that their story had the power to change lives and inspire hope in even the darkest of times. And as they looked to the future, to the next chapter in their incredible journey together, they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them hand in hand, their love stronger than ever. Because in the end, that was what their story had always been about. Not the mystery box or the alien geisha or the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, but the simple, powerful truth that love, in all its many forms, was the greatest force in the universe. And as long as they had each other, they knew that anything was possible.